So we have 6 minutes left to go through the ceremony of generating the mind for enlightenment. Since we have already spoken a lot about the nature of compassion, the procedure for training one's mind and cultivating that compassion and so on. So when engaging in this ceremony, you should try to recollect all your understanding of compassion and the need for cultivating it. And then the first verse that we are going to read is a verse, a formula of taking refuge. So amongst the members of the audience, those who are practicing Buddhists can follow the verse and take refuge here. And sorry, Ms. Olin said that when we do this recitation of the first verse, the non-Buddhists who are present here can also participate.
Non-Buddhists at the same time, some believe.
Non-Buddhist religious practitioners.
And that means some Christians or some Muslims, some Jews.
So instead of taking refuge in the three jewels, you can, when we do the recitation, take refuge in your own divinity, and use that formula as a way of reaffirming your faith in that divinity. So, and then the next verse is the actual verse that pertains to the generation of the mind of enlightenment.
Oh yeah. And the
third line, a third verse, is really there to give us a sense of courage and also inspiration that would help us sustain our commitment to the altruistic principles.
Yeah, that's a kind of
So the actual ceremony will be constituted by reciting these three verses slowly in English. So all of you should recite this in unison. And as we recite these verses, you should reflect upon their meaning and cultivate the right contemplations in your mind.
Yeah.
With a wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Enthused by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind for full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, until then, may I too remain and dispel the miseries of the world. With a wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Enthused by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind for full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, until then, may I too remain and dispel the miseries of the world. With a wish to free all beings, I shall always go for refuge to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha until I reach full enlightenment. Enthused by wisdom and compassion, today in the Buddha's presence, I generate the mind for full awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. As long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, until then, may I too remain and dispel the miseries of the world.
So thank you, that completed. So these last three verses, that I think very powerful. So those Buddhists, if you agree, if you feel okay, then this is whenever you have the time, think and recite. That gives you some kind of inner strength. So good. So that's all. Thank you very much.
Your Holiness, on behalf of the Conservancy for Tibetan Art and Culture and all of us here today, I'd like to thank you for your generosity and for your teaching. I'd also like to thank Dr. Thupten Jingpa for the translation today. And Miss Nancy Connors for the sign language interpretation. And to American University and all of the 120 volunteers that facilitated this event, I'd like to thank all of you. Your Holiness, please come back to Washington, D.C. soon to teach again. And on behalf of the Conservancy, I'd like to extend an invitation. Your Holiness, may the merit generated from the hearing, from the contemplation, and from the meditating of these teachings, may it benefit all sentient beings. And in particular, we all pray for your long life. Thank you, Your Holiness.
So thank you very much. It seems that your sort of invitation or your request, it seems very, very sincere and coming from heart. So although you say I am now getting older, but still seems my physical is quite okay. As long as this body can manage, my whole life dedicated for benefit for other. So even small contribution, I'm always ready to serve you as much as I can. Thank you.
The Conservancy for Tibetan Culture would like to profoundly thank His Holiness the Dalai Lama, recipient of the Nobel Peace Prize and one of this century's greatest proponents of nonviolence, for the teaching he gave in Washington, D.C. Most of you are familiar with the tragic story of the invasion and current occupation of Tibet and the tremendous suffering of the Tibetan people. Now, after 40 years of destruction, Tibetan culture and heritage is very much at risk. The Conservancy for Tibetan Art and Culture is pleased to inform you that proceeds from the sale of these cassettes will be used to preserve Tibet's unique cultural heritage. Please refer to the inside jacket of the cassette tapes to learn more about how you can continue to support the preservation of Tibetan culture. Thank you.
Yeah.